What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, we have a new Bioshock coming. They've announced it now on Twitter, and we had a full press release on it, and we're going to go over all of that, and maybe even when we can expect to see it. We'll talk a bit about how they're doing it, which studio is even doing it, and something strange seems to be going on at Sony. Seriously, it's not the Sony that we've kind of been following the last 5 years. All of a sudden, there's this very odd, abrupt change, and we're going to talk bit about what's happening and why we're kind of looking at it this way. Xbox Live is going to be accessible from the PlayStation 4, for example, in Minecraft, and a game that they have had as a first-party exclusive is going multi-platform, and this is after a while, since the late 90s. So a lot of stuff happening at Sony, which is making some people wonder if that change in leadership is having an effect here. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to like button, it does help out, and get subscribed so you can stay up to date on all the gaming news going on in the gaming world. We're going to start today with Vanquish and Bayonetta. We had previously talked about how there was a listing on the Xbox store for both, and it looked like there's going to be a double pack, and then you could buy them separately. Well, that has now been officially announced, and there's this really cool Steelbook edition. Check this out. This thing looks awesome, by the way. I'm gonna pick this up. The Steelbook itself is $40 for the physical version, and that will have Bayonetta and Vanquish both on a disc, as you see there, and it's coming February 18th, 2020. Now, you can also buy these separately if you'd like. You can buy them on the shop for $25 each, so you get a little bit of a discount there if you buy them bundled, and like I said, physically with that Steelbook, looks really, really cool. It will have some enhancements for the Pro and the X, where it will be at 4K 60, so it's going to look really, really good, which, by the way, if you have not seen Vanquish on PC, it looks like a whole new game. It's awesome looking, so I think people who pick this up and have not played Vanquish in either a long time or ever, this is a good way to do it. I mean, if you have Bayonetta and you're not that interested in the physical copy, or you're not that interested in Bayonetta or vice versa, I mean, $25 for either is still pretty good. And Vanquish, like I said, being at 4K 60 with an enhanced console like the Pro or the X is going to be pretty awesome to see. We also, of course, have the Game Awards on Thursday, and a lot of announcements have been coming out. We're going to talk about a game that appears to have been teased a little later on today in the show, but we also should talk about some of the guest appearances, which one of them was announced yesterday that is actually Reggie Fils-Aimé, as you're seeing here. It was tweeted out by Jeff that he would be attending, saying, I guess he received his invitation. So happy to welcome Reggie back to the Game Awards on Thursday night as a presenter. He keeps up his perfect attendance record. And what that means, I assume, is he's going to come out and he'll kind of maybe a little bit of a speech, slight speech, and then he'll, of course, present an award and all of that. That's really cool to see. He's not going to be there necessarily related to Nintendo or anything, although I guess he could come out and present like the family game one, although that one's kind of a wash for Nintendo anyway, so that might not even be awarded on the show. But either way, to see Reggie there would be pretty cool, and I don't think he's going to be doing any type of announcements outside of just, having an envelope, opening it and saying who won what, but it's just going to be neat to see him there. Also, today we have an Indie World Showcase, and these are super hard to predict because they're indie games, so we've seen it before where we've had some crazy stuff announced here that you can't predict, like I said, but we've also had some stuff we could, things like Cuphead that was kind of leaked out at one point, Ori, and a few others, but here's actually what Nintendo tweeted out. So later on today, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, there will be an Indie World Showcase, roughly 20 minutes of information on some upcoming indie games for Nintendo Switch, and there is one I would like to see in there, and I think it falls into indie game, I think. Disco Elysium, that will be really neat to see there. Maybe Hollow Knight Silk Song could finally get some information in a release date. That would be cool as well, since Hollow Knight has sold tremendously well on the Switch, but I think Disco Elysium, as long as they can get all that figured out for controllers, that would be a cool thing to move over to the Switch, and I think the audience there would really pick this game up. It's obviously up for a lot of awards, and there's a lot of spotlights on it right now, so if it moved to something like the Switch, especially during an indie presentation the week of the Game Awards, yeah, that'd be pretty good, I think, for them at the studio in that game. But today, like I said, State of Play from an hour from when this video went up, and then we have Indie World, and then we have the Game Awards on Thursday. It's a pretty packed week. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with Sony right away, because like I said, some interesting stuff I wouldn't have really thought about happening anytime soon. Specifically, the game that's going to be going multi-platform is happening at Sony, and it seems to be coming on the heels of Sean Layden leaving and seemingly Jim Ryan taking over, but Minecraft is getting an update. and it's the update that a lot of people have been asking for that will enable full crossplay, and this is because the Bedrock engine, Bedrock Edition, all that is going to the PlayStation 4, and what that means is, yes, crossplay, but that means you will be required to sign in with a Microsoft account or an Xbox account in order to use it. That is the part that is really catching some people off guard. It's something that Sony had been kind of against for a while. I mean, think back to the commercial for the Switch and the Xbox. You remember they did Survive together, and that was a whole thing, and as shot at Sony, and it seemingly anyway, and all of that. And now Sony's basically jumping in. It's weird to hear all of this from Sony. Like going into the next generation, maybe they wanted to get all of this situated, but it does feel like Sony is having a bit of a change of heart completely inside. Also, all of the progress from the PS4 will carry over to this new update, this new version of Minecraft. So if you've been doing a lot of stuff or you've purchased some things, any of that, it should carry over for you. But then on top of Minecraft, we have rumors of Horizon Zero Dawn going to PC. I'll believe that when I see it. At least that's what I thought, until something else got announced. And that something else? Well, that's MLB The Show becoming a multi-platform game. This is something else. This was actually tweeted out here. This was by MLB Communications saying, today, MLB players, Sony San Diego, and PlayStation announced multi-year, multi-platform video game partnership extensions. And in this press release, they specifically say console game or game consoles, console systems. It was a weird bit of language in there, and I wasn't really sure which systems they were talking about. That was the hard part. It was like, okay, are they talking about like PC in like broad senses? Until the other companies started tweeting about this themselves. We had Phil Spencer who mentioned, oh, it's gonna be great for a bunch of people to play. And then Nintendo of America tweets out a baseball while capturing this tweet and quoting it. Yes, it looks like MLB The Show, a game that has been Sony's game. It's been their exclusive because it's not only developed by Sony San Diego, it's also published by Sony in accordance with the MLB. Well, it's going to be going to other platforms. This is very, very weird. This has been with Sony since the late 90s. Even if you're not a baseball person, you probably have known, well, if I want to play a good baseball game, I would have to get a PlayStation. Or maybe someone's asked you and you're like, oh, The Show, that's the one that everyone plays. And yeah, I remember playing The Show back on the PS2 quite a bit, and then it went to the PS3 and the PS4. It kind of fell out in the late PS3 era, and that tends to happen with sports games for me anyway, because at one point I was really into Madden, and then I fell out of that, going into the 360, but The Show has always been really cool. In fact, when they added it to the PlayStation Plus, I actually downloaded it and played some of it, and you make your own character, and you go through, and I'll be like a starting pitcher, and you technically level up all of your pitches, and it's kind of like a mild RPG element to it, but there's a few things I look at and I say, what could have caused them to do this? This is them taking an exclusive that's helped them sell systems because it's the only baseball game really in town next to what? RBI Baseball? Like that, it's like a budget title. This is like the real deal for a lot of baseball fans, and they're putting it on other platforms. Now, I'm sure that's good for baseball fans, right? Because if you don't have a PS4 and you've wanted to play it on an Xbox, a Switch obviously for portability, or even a PC, it seems like by 2021 at the earliest, you'll have your chance to do that. So I was trying to figure out why would this happen, and the only thing I can come up with is heavy speculation, and it has to do possibly with EA maybe exploring the idea of buying up the MLB license and only being the ones to make games for MLB, and maybe Sony wanted to try to counter it, and they figured the only way they could really make that actually happen was to have more customers, and going from 100 million consoles, which yes, they have quite the user base, but then doubling or even tripling that by bringing in the Xbox user base, the Switch user base, which is growing rapidly, and PC gamers, you have a lot more people who could potentially buy your product, and then you can, of course, sign a bigger deal with the MLB, and they would be happier. I do wonder what happened internally to make this happen. Pressure from the Major League Baseball, or pressure from Sony, Jim Ryan, maybe? It is odd, but it's something I didn't think I'd see ever. So here we are now, 2021. Look forward to, at the earliest 2021 anyway, look forward to, I guess, picking up MLB The Show on your Switch or your Xbox or your PlayStation 4. Next up, let's talk about a game that will be at the Game Awards because, well, Jeff Keighley told us it would be there. He tweeted this out as you're seeing, saying, "Where cold steel collides and blood runs dry, souls blossom. Tune in for the world premiere at the Game Awards to witness the soul bloom in Naraka the game." And this appears to be a game published by NetEase and developed by 24 Entertainment. Now, people were trying to find anything about 24 Entertainment after that announcement went up by Jeff Keighley, and they can't really seem to find much. Now, we do know that NetEase has been investing in, I guess, trying to enter the console market in terms of games. They've mostly been doing cell phone games, like, completely, and a lot of people have been wondering what some of their first games are going to look like. This appears to be one of them that I guess will be for, I don't know, some platforms. Maybe it's all of them: Xbox One, PS4, Switch, PC, and 24 Entertainment appears to be maybe a new developer, a new studio that's been formed by NetEase to create this game, because originally a lot of us were looking at that key art and we thought, oh, that kind of looks like a FromSoft style game, maybe. I mean, we're taking a lot from the key art here, but after people looked up the trademark for it, found NetEase, and then found 24 Entertainment below that even, it's kind of anyone's guess what this game could end up being. It could end up being like a side-scrolling game, you know, a more basic-looking game, or it could be what a lot of people are hoping, which is like a 3D action-style game. A lot of people were thinking Soulsborne, of course, a Soul-style game, but we'll see about all of that. It is interesting that this will, I guess, be NetEase's real big stage here for them to show off a console game. Hopefully they don't just show up with a cell phone game, because people are gonna be very disappointed with that. I don't really think Jeff Keighley would tweet out a cell phone game and then present it at the Game Awards like that, but he's also done the Hydrobot, so who knows? And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Bioshock. People were really excited to hear about Bioshock coming back, as it was just thrown out there. Check this out. This is the tweet that was put out there by just Bioshock. Today, 2K announced the founding of Cloud Chamber, its newest development studio. This team of storytellers has begun work on the next iteration of the acclaimed Bioshock franchise, which will be in development for the next several years. Then there was also a press release that Take-Two and 2K put out that linked to that, saying San Francisco Bay Area headquarters in Novato, California, as well as in Montreal, Quebec, which marks the first ever Canadian office for a 2K studio. In addition, 2K announced that Cloud Chamber has started to work on the next iteration of the globally acclaimed Bioshock franchise, which will be in development for the next several years. So they have a couple of locations here for this new studio, and it seems like they're going to be jumping right on Bioshock to get that done. But what's interesting about this is Jason Schreier also tweeted out mentioning that this has actually been in development for a while, and it's starting to lead people to believe that it was either rebooted or it's farther along than Take-Two and 2K are letting on, and maybe they say several years, which means maybe 2021 or 2022, possibly, we could have it released. People were thinking maybe we could see it at the Game Awards as like a teaser, and I mean, I guess we've seen some pretty early games at times, like, you know, we've seen Dragon Age to a degree. It was like this weird teaser that didn't actually say Dragon Age, and anyway, I think it's gonna be a little while before we see Bioshock, especially if it was rebooted. If it was not rebooted, maybe it's just a longer development time, because it sounds like if it's the same project that's been worked on this whole time by another studio that Take-Two has, it maybe has just been kind of in flux and put on hold and moved around. I'm thinking maybe it really was rebooted in some fashion, and now they're finally getting to work on it for next generation systems. I expect this to be an Xbox Scarlet and a PlayStation 5 game, and that's got to be exciting for Bioshock fans, especially if you didn't like Bioshock Infinite as much. I thought that was very, very good, but I also really liked the first Bioshock quite a bit. So I'll be curious the direction they take this series in now with a new game that's so far off from Infinite that it's got a possibility that it could have a big change in direction. I just hope it still has that same feeling of something like the first Bioshock, which was amazing, because we'll be on new systems, so maybe they could take a chance with it. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Alfonso Rosario saying Elder Scrolls V Oblivion. Can't say I've ever heard that one. That was from when I was reading through the top 20 games or top 10 games of the decade that Metacritic put out, and that was one of them, and I said Elder Scrolls V Oblivion. And it was really funny, as the reason for that is because I was looking back on some really cool mods, and that was actually one thing that made its way to Newswave and then came out. Generally, I'll have a ton of stories and I have to whittle it down to so many, usually like what, 6 or 7, somewhere around there, maybe 8 at times if I can fit all of these stories in. But one of the stories was actually about Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, and then I was also looking at Oblivion, but there was a really cool texture pack that was put out, which I'll show you some images here. It's like almost 5 gigabytes, and it looks awesome. Like, they redid so many of the textures, added some extra lighting. It just makes the original Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind just look so much better, and I was really thinking about downloading it, and then I started looking into Oblivion texture packs, and I had that on my mind, and that's why I said Elder Scrolls 5 Oblivion. But yeah, pretty cool to see. I just like the modding scene for Elder Scrolls, especially when you see those older games that, if you look at them now, like you go back and play them natively, not great looking, but then you have like the texture packs and stuff, and it really makes it look so much better and kind of breathe some new life into it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's the weird stuff going on at Sony, letting Xbox Live be accessible on the PlayStation 4 for Minecraft, the new Bedrock update, and then what about them taking MLB The Show and making it available like everywhere now? Even though they're going to be the ones developing it and publishing it. There's very strange stuff going on right now over at Sony. Then what about the Indie World presentation or even State of Play? If you're here early, what's happening there? Let me know about that down below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.